I'm so glad that we've all made it into this space together tonight. I want to acknowledge how chilly it is outside and how wintry it's been feeling, and how many of us gathered here tonight are actually in the coziness of their homes. And it's not the same as the coziness of this sanctuary, but we're still glad to have you joining us. I want to invite you to think about the week that has passed. What did you do this week? Who did you talk to? Where did you go? Where did you decide not to go? What errands did you run? What little annoyances got in the way, and what little surprises lightened your load? Go through your week in your mind. It began last Saturday night when 3 stars entered the sky. And then you still had some weekends. Maybe you worked the weekends, I don't know. And Monday and Tuesday. And starting on Wednesday, there's a custom for Jews to stop saying Shavua Tov to one another, stop saying Happy Week, and to begin saying Shabbat Shalom for the week that is for the Shabbat that is to come. And so it truly is the Jewish hump day. And we get over the other side of that hump into Thursday. We think about planning for the weekend. What are you doing Friday night? How are you going to make Shabbat part of your practice this week? How are you going to acknowledge and observe the holiness of this day? A respite from the work of creation, a pause from acquiring to becoming, to being, to appreciating that which is created rather than running to create. And here we arrive at the very edge of this day, a doorway inviting us in to the rest, the peace, the pause that gives all of our days their meaning. We join together in Hine Ma Tov, which can be found on page 10. Please join with us. how good it is when those who are family dwell together in peace, gather to become a community in prayer. It's my pleasure to call forward Linda Pollock to light our Shabbat candles, as well as Mike Miller to lead us in the Motzi. We're going to begin with those blessings on page 2.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Adonai. We continue with Kiddush on page 5. A full cup of wine is a symbol of joy in Jewish tradition, and we join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reshit ki hu yom techila Lemikra Kodesh Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim Kivanu Vacharta Viotanu Kidashta Mikol Hamim V'Shabbat Kadshecha Be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. You guys can say Amen, and we say L'chaim. We haven't reviewed that in a while. Mike, would you please lead us in Motzi?
Please join me.
Motzi lechem min haaretz.
We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Well, Mike and Linda are enjoying a little challah, which you're welcome to enjoy after the service. I want to invite you to take a moment. We're not just greeting Shabbat, but we're also greeting one another. And I'd like to invite you to wish one another Shabbat Shalom, perhaps even get up out of your seats, even cross the aisles. Introduce yourself to someone you haven't met before, and we'll join back together in a few moments. Let's come back together. We need a siddur. Oh, Charlie Richter stole some challah. So we, you know what, Charlie? You give me an idea, which is that when we greet one another, we should probably also kind of hand around the challah a little bit. That's a good idea. All right. So we continue to welcome Shabbat together, but the singing of Lecha Dodi, which can be found on page 20. Please join with our choir led by Brennan as we sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Remain standing for Am I Awake and Baruch Hu, which it's my pleasure to call forward Z to lead us in this. So when I was doing this, it was more like sing along, sing along. So I'll work on it so don't get confused next time. You can follow along in the insert, and then the Hebrew text can be found both in transliteration in the insert as well as in the Hebrew on page 28.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. me the light. Will I finally know? Can you let me see? Can you help me find all the best in me? With an open heart I can be aware. I will know at last blessings that I share. Then I hear your voice and I understand. I will be awake, I will be prepared. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
Thank you, Z. We remain standing, and I want to draw your attention to the bottom of the page where we have the Am I Awake part of the insert. So it says roll into dark. I'm going to ask you to be seated because I'm actually going to teach you something, and then we can stand up for it. Incidentally, this prayer that we're about to do, the reason that there's a tradition that we stand for it. And interestingly, I know that I've had some interesting conversations with Alex about this, about whether or not we stand for the Shema at KI or we sit for the Shema. Now, the reason is because you actually can stand or sit for the Shema. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to be in the same position you were in when it was time to say the Shema. In other words, you don't delay. You don't say, oh, now it's time to stand up because it's time for the Shema. Whatever you're doing, whatever position you're in, you rush to say the Shema. And that is often why we'll stay standing from the Baruch Hu all the way through the Shema so that we can maintain that practice of standing because it's the position we want to be in. So we'll stand up in a minute. But I wanted to talk about this prayer, the Ma'ariv Aravim. And I started last week talking about how a little bit every week I'm going to be introducing something about one of our prayers. And so this week I'd like to teach a little something about the Ma'ariv Aravim. So one of the really important ideas theologically for the rabbis was that there was one God. Now that's not a huge surprise to any of you, but they were actually pushing against the influence of Zoroastrianism of the time, which basically had like a god of darkness and a god of light, a god of good and a god of evil. There was a sense of like a duality within God. And so in response, the rabbis are saying like, no, God is the God of light and God is the God of dark. And all of it is the same one God. And so there's this beautiful image. I don't know, maybe you don't agree. I always thought this was just exquisite. This idea that when the night changes to day and the day changes to night, you know, as you think about what the sky looks like as dawn approaches and becomes morning, as dusk approaches and becomes night. God rolls the light away from the darkness and rolls the darkness away from the light, as if light and darkness are in these layers and God just sort of pulls them back like a curtain. I always find it very, very moving. Another thing I want to share with you, which isn't about this prayer, but about prayer in general, is that some of us are very good at saying prayers. We've always sort of been kind of into that. It's sort of made sense to us. Maybe some of us have always been very musical and have loved to sing prayers, and we love to hear prayers sung. There are people in this world, they could even be in this room, they could even be on this bima, who like to also, and get a lot also, out of experiencing the world through the physical body. And so sometimes I like to add a physical movement to a prayer. Now, some have their traditional physical movements, like when we bow for the Baruch Hu, but this is something else, and I introduced it in this way because I think that for people who aren't used to it, it can look childish. And certainly I like to do it with kids because kids respond well to it. But I want to invite any of you to do this because it's a way to kind of embody the prayer. So the phrase rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light is, you can find in your handout. If I have a handout I can find it in. Thank you. I had it in my hand a minute ago. All right, thank you, Marty. So you can see where it says, Borei Yom Valayla. Can you repeat that? Borei Yom Valayla. So Borei means creator, like Borei Pri Hagafet is God, the creator of the fruit of the vine. God creates the universe. Bereshit bara. Bara is the word for creation. So Borei Yom means creating day. Vilayla, what's Vilayla? And night. Golel, it's the word for a cycle or a wheel or it's even related to the word for wave. So there's this cycling, golel, or cycling light, mipnei, from the face of choshech, which is darkness, and golel, or rolling light from darkness, and well, it repeats what it just said, because that's the music, but then, and darkness from light, v'choshech, from the face of or, from the face of light. And so when we sing the prayer, or this version of the prayer, it goes like this. Borei Yom Valayla. Repeat after me. Borei Yom Valayla, Golel or mipnei choshech, Golel or mipnei choshech, Golel or mipnei choshech, Golel or mipnei choshech, V'choshech mipnei or, V'choshech mipnei or. Now, all of these people are professional musicians. I am not, even though I'm doing this professionally right now. So I think it'll fit together better when we sing it all as one piece. So I'm going to sing it through twice, so you can hear it once and then sing it once. It goes like this. Borei Yom Valayla, Golel or mipnei choshech, Golel or mipnei choshech, V'choshech mipnei or. Try it with me. Borei Yom Valayla, Golel or mipnei choshech, Golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Now, promised physical movement. Here it comes. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. We're at the bottom of page 30. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Together on the bottom of page 32. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, as in precepts. We lie down, and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
This was a good example of how we didn't rush to be in a certain position in order to say the Shema. We continue with the Ve'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Thank you, Z. We read responsively paragraph by paragraph, the bottom of page 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. Together, the high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets, instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing at the shores of the sea. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, ויהלום יד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גל Yisrael. We continue with Let There Be Love, Hashkivenu, which can be found on the insert in your, on page, one of the middle pages.
Shelter from life's storms.
Peace and friendship and love, may they be our shelter, much as Shabbat is a shelter from life's storms, an island of peace in the grand sweep of time. We sing together Yisrael, page 44. Z, I'd love to invite you back up to lead us in Z's favorite version, which I love to hear.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך וקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך וקוראי עונג. המקדשי שביעי כולם ישמחו ויתענגו מטובך והשביעי רצית בו וקידשת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך וקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך וקוראי עונג. חמדת ימין אותו קראת, זכר למעשה, זכר למעשה בראשית. חמדת ימין אותו קראת, זכר למעשה, זכר למעשה בראשית. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך וקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך וקוראי עונג.
תודה רבה. We continue with the Amidah, page 46. We rise.
Adonai sevatektita ufia gitehillateka. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rochel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Hastei Havot V'imahot, U'mevii Gula Lifnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mekayeh HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, U'morid HaGashem, Mekakel Chayim Bechesed, Mekayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Zomek Noflin Ve'ofer Holim, U'matir Asurim, U'mekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Givuro, U'mitameh ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מקיים הכל. אתה קדוש שמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני באל הקדוש.
אתה קידשת את יום השביעי לשמך תכלית מעשה שמיים וארץ, וברכתו מכל הימים וקידשתו מכל הזמנים, וכן כתוב בתורתך. Together at the top of page 55. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Together on the top of page 57, Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands. You are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha lidvadcha b'yirah na'avod. Gratitude is one of the great spiritual gifts that Jewish tradition brings to us. And here in the midst of the Amidah, which on Shabbat is actually quite shortened during the week, it's 18 blessings, or 19, depending on how you count. But a lot of them are taken out of the Amidah for Shabbat because, of course, we don't want to, God needs a break too. We don't want to keep, a lot of those are asking God for things. But this piece that we're about to do, this prayer, the Hoda'ah, remains in the Shabbat worship because it is gratitude. It is an opportunity to give thanks. And so, as is our custom for the last many months, I want to invite everyone who's here tonight and everyone who's watching remotely to call to mind something for which you're grateful. Maybe something you only recently noticed in your life or recently became the case. Maybe it's something that's been with you a long time. Maybe you notice and say thank you for it all the time. Maybe you've never thought of it as a blessing before now. I invite you to call that thing to mind. And then, if you decide to share that with those of us gathered, which is purely optional, I want to invite you to share it briefly so that I might repeat it so the people at home can hear. And then we'll respond with the phrase that are the first three words of this prayer, Modim anachnu lach. We give you thanks. And I want to start tonight. There was a gentleman I was visiting with this week who had something to offer gratitude for, and he's not able to be here, and usually is not able to be here. So he offered something for me to share on his behalf. If anybody's ever watching from home or know you're going to be watching from home and you have something you want to send me in advance, I certainly can share it out loud. And so Norm and Jet Sarachek are very grateful to the Lehigh Valley Health Network hospice workers who are making their lives possible and workable right now. And we say together, Modim anachnu lach. Marty.
Talk about those tonight, especially those tonight, how beautiful our music is. And I just wanted to
Marty is grateful for our wonderful music. Modim anachnu lach. Brandon. And Brandon is grateful for the opportunity to visit his mother tomorrow. Modim anachnu lach. See? So Z is grateful for YouTube tutorial videos that will helped her learn to fix her washer this week. Modim anachnu lach. Yes, very. Barry's grateful for a fantastic visit with his children and grandchildren in Chicago. Modim anachnu lach. Yeah, Ray.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be traveling to Florida to visit my sister and nieces.
So Ray is very grateful to be traveling tomorrow to visit family for the holidays. Modim anachnu lach. Yes, Barbara. Barbara and Art are grateful. Art, too? You're also grateful? Yeah. Barbara and Art are grateful that they reconnected with a friend from their past. Modim anachnu lach. Mike, did I see your hand? No. Okay. I'm grateful for a couple of days of quiet without any children at home. Especially at this time of year when things, when we just want to snuggle up in blankets and read books anyway. So. Modim anachnu lach. And so I want to invite you, if you haven't said anything out loud, that's okay. Just hold in your mind that thing that you're grateful for as we say together, Modim anachnu lach. We pray silently. Shalom, shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yoshvei Tevel, Ve'al kol Yisrael, Yimru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen. 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 We pray for peace for our whole world and peace for our land and our people and all the people who share parts of that land or borders of that land or the air of that land, passing back and forth. I invite you to pull out the laminated sheets that you received when you entered. No? No laminated sheets? Okay. Please bring your hearts and your ears as I recite this prayer entitled Peace, Please, by Rabbi Karen Kadar. I think a few of you do have it. If you do, please feel free to read it with me. We gather together in faith and with hope to pray for peace and for the safety of the people of Israel and innocent victims among the Palestinian people. Help us, O Holy One, and protect us in our hour of need. Touch our hearts, lest they be hardened with despair. Guide our thoughts, lest they are overcome with fear. Bring healing to the wounded, strength to those in mourning, courage to those in fear, wisdom to those who lead. Yedid Nefesh, beloved one, reveal yourself and fill the world with your light. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Be quick, God of love, for the time has come. Have mercy upon us, eternal one of peace. We join together with the choir in the singing of Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim, which can be found in your insert. It is also found on page, I think, 259, but the arrangement of the text is easier to follow in the handout. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. Bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all whose peace. And together we say, we yearn not just for peace in the wide, wide world, but peace within our souls, our hearts, our innermost lives, those in our community and in our widening circles of connection who are in need of healing of body, healing of mind, healing of spirit. We think tonight, as we prepare to sing together the Misha Berach, we think of Mac Beeson, Robert Alexander, Gershona Binyamina bat Sara Valevi, Robbie Cohen, Chaya Shena Dinka bat Esther Basa Vyosef, Ellery Einstein, David Eiskowitz, Rivka Elka bat Root, Marianne Gardosky, Francis Gentlecore, Dawn Goldman, Rachel Goldstein, Jamie Gordon Rodriguez, Mikhail Gordon, Harav Rachel bat Fruma, Emily Hochstedler, Nick Jelinski, Diane Levine, Wilburn Nichols, Felice Price, Shauli Rosenberg, Dr. Norm Sarachek, Michael Scarce, Susan Scarce, Peggy Stetner, Ethel Zager, Ziv, and Marcy Zolkos. I invite you to add any names to this list, the names of anyone for whom you're praying for healing tonight. Please. Thank you, Barbara. With hope for healing in our hearts, along with a commitment to show up, to be present for those who are ill, to be there with them, guiding their hearts toward the healing that we can bring through our presence. We join together, Misha Beirach, on the insert in your handout. May we soon all know blessing, blessing of body, of mind, and of spirit. May refuah shlema for us all. So, a A couple years ago, there was a movie called The Truman Show. Who's seen The Truman Show? Yeah, okay. So can somebody explain the premise of The Truman Show? It's a great film. Anyone? Remember? Okay, so basically, Mark, were you gonna know? So there was a guy played by Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey? Yeah, he played, and it's not a comic role, so it's pretty interesting for him. So he plays this guy who is born to a corporation. It's not exactly clear how that happened, and his entire life is on film. His entire life is on film, but everybody in the film knows it's a film, and he's the only one who doesn't. So they build this like pretend little Disney world for him to live in, and they give him this little life, and they try to kind of craft and create and produce it in such a way that it ends up, selling the vision of television that they want. And it's really interesting. The most interesting thing to me when I saw this movie was that it was this guy who's like, his whole life was a movie and everyone in the world was watching him. That's what I thought my life was like when I was a little kid. I thought that maybe I was in a movie and everyone could see, and I was the only one that couldn't see. So I bring this up to you tonight because I've been thinking a lot about hope and about faith. And it might not be surprising to hear that a rabbi is thinking about faith, but actually it's not something that I always feel so comfortable with. A lot of times in American religious parlance, we say, oh, faith, I'm a faith leader. I have my colleagues who are also faith leaders. We have interfaith events. Many Christians in America talk about their religion as faith. We Jews talk about faith, but it's also like kind of culture and it's peoplehood, and there's lots of layers to it. It's not just whether we believe or we don't believe, right? So I'm not as into the word faith as maybe some other religious leaders might be, but I've been thinking about it a lot because we turn to faith when it's hard to figure out what else to hold on to. And I've been feeling that a lot lately as I think about world events. Now, prime of mind for many of us is what's happening in Israel and in Gaza. But, that's not, of course, the only thing in the world that would cause us to take a heavy sigh. In this week's portion, there's an interesting moment. We're at the end of the Joseph story, and we're just about to make the transition from the story of this family of Jacob into the nation that they become. And after next week, so not next week, but the week after, we're actually going to start a new book of the Torah in which it really is about a nation and not just a family. And who remembers what Joseph's brothers did to him when he was young and annoying? Threw him in a pit, and then what? Sold him. All right, this was not a functional family. This was not a great situation, right? What? Yeah. Vicky would have done it to her sister. Anyway, this is many, many years later when Joseph is the vizier of Egypt. He's number 2 to Pharaoh, and he is in charge of all the grains that has been stored in Egypt over these last 7 years in preparation for the famine that Pharaoh's dream predicted. And so his brothers come to him searching for for grain, not because he's Joseph, but because he's the guy in charge of the grain in Egypt. And they actually don't recognize him. Then he sends them back. Then they come back again. There's a whole thing with Benjamin and Jacob, and it's come to Torah study. It's really interesting. But finally, when Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, it's this very emotional moment. And Joseph does this thing that is kind of like astounding. It's this great gift, and it's really, morally, I mean, it's quite the menschy choice on his part in a lot of ways. The brothers, realizing that Joseph survived and that he is now second in command to the prime power in the known world, they get scared. What do you think they'd be scared of? They didn't treat him so good, right? So he would think that it would be not unreasonable for them to think, oh my God, the chickens are coming home to roost, that we're going to get our comeuppance, and that Joseph is really going to get back at us. But Joseph doesn't say that. Joseph doesn't say, now I've got you where I want you. Joseph says something really interesting. He says, don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep over it. Because I see now that this was part of a larger design that God was doing. God put me in this position because I needed to be here in order that I would have this grain for you to come and receive, and in order that our family could move down to Egypt and survive and become a nation. That this was all part of God's will, which is remarkable when you think about accountability. I don't know that I buy that they have no accountability, but it is a really powerful message. What if our lives, with their problems, their difficulties, even their worldwide tragedies, were part of a movie in which we each were a player? And yet, it's a bigger movie than any one of us. What if faith and hope, beyond all logic, that there is a future coming that is worth hoping for, that is worth having faith in, a future coming that is part of the story of this movie. And we may not get to the end of the movie, you or you or you or me, but that we're still part of that story. The scene with Joseph and his brothers is a small version of what I'm talking about. Joseph could very well have said, you did this terrible thing to me, and now we have no relationship. And that's just the way it's going to be. But instead, he said, no, I see the bigger picture. There's more going on here than we can possibly perceive. More going on than the choices that each of us makes. And in fact, our lives can fit into a larger story that has meaning beyond perhaps what we can perceive. And so that's where I've been landing with faith, is the idea that faith maybe is not that the thing I hope will happen and the way I hope it will happen even in my lifetime. But that it will happen. that the arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice. One of the things about being a Jew is that we're very attached to our history. And when we tell our history, we tell it with great pride. And often, we tell it as a story of moving from degradation to salvation. That's what the Passover story is about, right? We're slaves in Egypt for 400 years, and then God frees us with an outstretched arm and a mighty hand and lifts us up out of Egypt, and we become a people in relationship with God, living in our land. Think about being a slave in Egypt at year 200 of that story. The future you might want to imagine is too far for you to imagine. It's too hard for you to see outside the box of your own suffering and limitations and obstacles. And it may be many, many years and even generations that will proceed beyond you before that light at the end of that tunnel starts to become visible. But yet, that is how our stories have gone. On a smaller level, when we think about American Jewish history, the peddler goes from town to town and village to village, having escaped European persecution, a rag picker who becomes a small shop owner and a general goods store owner and a department store owner, and whose children are in the government, whose children are on the boards of hospitals and universities. We like to tell that story. But how easy is it to be in that story when you're the rag picker, 35 years old, trying to feed your family? Dark times can be part of a larger story. It's the light of faith and the light of hope that guides us through them. Shabbat Shalom. It's my pleasure to call forward Mike Strook, a member of our board who is going to offer us some greetings and announcements and possibly take us all out for dinner. Was that a credit card that fell on the floor? Yeah, okay.
Good evening and Shabbat Shalom, and it was not a credit card, so you're all out of luck. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to thank you for joining us in the sanctuary and also online. Join us tomorrow morning for Torah study at 9:30 in the multipurpose room. Please enter through the 23rd Street doors. There are a lot of educational, spiritual, and fun things coming after the new year, including a weekday learning opportunity with Rabbi Tornberg. Learn and listen, listen and learn will begin on Thursday, January 11th at 10:30 in the morning and repeat most Thursdays. The first topic is how to stand for Jewish values, for Israel, and for Jews. Sign-ups are underway for Shabbat Out of the Box on January 13th. Sing for your supper. Go to our website at www.kilv.org for more information and to RSVP. Here's a save the date alert. The weekend of March 15th through the 17th will be our Scholar in Residence weekend. Watch for more information on this, as well as all of our events on the website, in our bulletin, and in our weekly email, Let's Stay Connected. At the conclusion of tonight's service, please join us for our Oneg Shabbat in the multipurpose room. Stay a while, catch up with friends, introduce yourself to someone you may not know, and help create the sense of community that is KI. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Mike. Shabbat Shalom. We're going to continue with Aleinu on page 282. It's my pleasure to call forward Z, who's going to lead us in Aleinu, and also Jane and Rob Cohen, who are going to open the ark.
So I don't have enough hands. Hallelu l'shabeach ladon hakom latet kedula leotzev reshit shelo asanu kevoye haratzot velo samanu kamishpechot ha'adama shelo sam kalchenu kahem vegor aleinu kechol ha'olam ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר וחי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth. Our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We remember the 6 million of our martyred brethren who perished in the Shoah, and all those who gave their lives in defense of Jewish ideals here in the United States, in Israel, and around the globe. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing. As I read the names of those for whom we are saying Kaddish this evening, if you personally are saying Kaddish for one of the people whose names I read, we invite you to stand and remain standing so that we might acknowledge your loss and envelop you in our love and support. We think tonight of Eugene Denitz, whose family is in Shiva, the first week of Shloshim. We also think of Bobby Hamill, who's in the period of Shloshim, as well as Phyllis Krasnow, who is in Shloshim as well. We think of those whose yahrzeits occur this week: Albert Altman, Aaron Aronsky, Erwin Beck, Edith Black, Bernice Fagan, Helen Fagenbaum, Freda Fishman, Francis Fried, Carl Fried, Rose Fried, Mark Goldman, Martin Goldman, Dora Greenberg, Ken Grossman, Arthur Larrick, Tilly Merkel, Sidney Miller, Jeanette Roos, Elsie Rule, Anne Teresa Rug, Elspeth Schmidt, Rebecca Simon, Jean Weiss, Leo Weissenberger. We invite you to add any names to this list, the names of anyone for whom you're saying Kaddish tonight. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be a blessing. We rise as one congregation and join together in the words of Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash me rabbah, v'alma divrach rutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach leolam ul'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Viet Hadar, Viet Ale, Viet Halal, Shemei, Kudusha, Brichu, Le'ela, Min Kol, Birchata, V'shirata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Damiran, Ve'alma, V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shlama, Rabba, Min Shemaya, V'chayim, Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel and all the world, and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen. You may be seated. We're going to conclude our service tonight with the singing of Ki Eshmera Shabbat, which can be found on page 330. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereini, Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Mishmereini, Oti leo me'ad beino uveini, Oti leo me'ad beino uveini, Ki Yishmera Shabbat El Yishmereini, Ki Yishmera Shabbat El Yishmereini. We rise for our closing benediction. This holy day, sacred and apart, Israel's day of light and joy, it is a Shabbat of rest for which we are grateful. You bade us, standing assembled at Mount Sinai, that all the year through we should keep Shabbat, to set out a full table to honor a Shabbat of rest. When the work of creating the world was done, you sanctified and blessed it more than all other days. May we feel that sanctification and that blessing in our hearts on this day, between one another on this day, and in the deepest parts of our soul on this day. Shabbat Shalom.